Good day everyone. So for now we'll be discussing about the new format of the lesson plan that is used in DepEd. So it is called the detailed lesson plan. So why is it necessary that we have to know this? It's because if you are trying to pursue a job at DepEd, for your demonstration you need to prepare a detailed lesson plan. And when you are already teaching, it is required for every teacher in public schools. Now for 1 year, you should be using a detailed lesson plan for every lesson that you have. And after a year, pwede ka na mag-start gumamit ng daily lesson log. So, either way, pagka naman ang case ay nakakuha ka ng outstanding na remarks sa iyong demonstration, you are exempted. Hindi ka nagagamit ng detailed lesson plan for a year, you'll be proceeding into using a daily lesson log. But either way, you still have to know how to make it since every time na magde-demonstrate ka in public school, you are required to prepare a DLP. So, ayun. Though there may be some exemptions, still we must be equipped on how to use this. So, a detailed lesson plan in DepEd's format is this one. So, before we begin, I have to give you some terms that you should be familiar with. The first one is the curriculum guide. Okay, so the curriculum guide contains all the learning competencies, the content standards, and the performance standards that a student must possess. Okay, so this one is a standardized format used by the teachers in DepEd. So you have here the codes, the learning competencies, and all that you need para sa mga objectives mo. So later on, we'll be discussing more about this. And next one is the teacher's guide. The teacher's guide usually comes with the learner's material. Okay, so si learner's material and si teacher's guide and together with the curriculum guide, they are all aligned. So ang mga objective na ina-attain dyan ay found in the curriculum guide itself and the goals, etc. So now let's proceed to the format of the lesson plan. It begins, of course, with the indication of the topic, the subject, the teacher, the course, and the date. But aside from that, it begins with your objectives. And this one is very different with the traditional format that we are accustomed with. It has, number one, the content standards. So, the content standards indicates or determines all the facts, the knowledge, the concepts, and the principles that a student must know. And next to that is the performance standards. Okay, so the performance standards indicates the abilities, the skills, and the capabilities that a child must be able to demonstrate. And lastly, we have the learning competencies or the objectives. So, the learning competencies are also found in the curriculum guide, like what I said earlier. So, there is a standardized format for everyone. This one, you should remember this, is written in the form of a code. For example, ang code niya ay E21, like L120, things like that. You'll be more familiar with that. I'll be flashing some examples on your screen. Okay, so lahat po sila, itong tatlo na to, they are found in the curriculum guide. So it is very important that we have a copy of this sa mga subjects na hinahandle mo. And next to the objectives is your content. Ayan, content. So, almost similar sa traditional format, this one is the subject matter. So, simply put, ilalagay mo lang dyan kung ano yung topic mo for that day. And under this, ay inilalagay natin ang ating mga references. Yung references dito, meron siyang mga columns or rows. Una dyan ay yung teacher's guide pages. Anong page siya dun sa teacher's guide? But take note of this may or may not be provided in the link kung saan nyo siya pwede makita. And next to this is yung learner's material pages. Ano-anong page po ba siya doon sa learner's material? And next, textbook. If you were using a textbook, ilagay mo dito kung anong page siya makikita doon. And number 4 is yung sa learner's material that you have taken from the portal. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, merong portal yung DepEd for the shared materials na ginagamit nila. That is called Learning Resource Materials Development System. So here is the link. So you can check it out, but you need to have a DepEd account para ma-access mo siya. lrmbs.deped.gov.ph. So yeah, of course, merong www right here. So you can access materials here from this one. Meron silang provided materials for different categories of students, like for Muslims, meron silang madrasa na tinatawag. For indigenous people din meron, and also for for special education. But in some cases, materials are not available. But I'm sure na provided is curriculum guide. So you are safe with this part. You just need to find them. And next po sa ating references, yung other materials din na, or other references na pinakuhaan mo. Other references that pinagbasihan na teacher. So after sequence 10, of course, we'll be proceeding to the next part, which is the procedure. So usually, sa traditional format ng lesson plan, it begins with yung prayer, yung motivation, and all that stuff. Pero dito sa new format ng DLP, the first one right here, hindi siya exact term, okay? So the first part begins with the review. Okay, so there has to be a link between the previous topic and the next topic na magkakaroon kayo sa araw na yun. It has to be linked, it has to be relevant with the previous topics, especially if they are prerequisites. So, yeah, number 1 natin is review. It can be presented in a simple question or a quotation. It depends on the teacher. Next, after the review, I see purpose. You are giving students a sense of relevance nung inaaral nila doon sa buhay nila. What's the purpose of learning this? Like, for example, ano ang purpose ng pag-aaral ng linear equations? Well, I cannot answer that. Pero the point here is, the teacher must be able to make the topic relevant for the students to be motivated to learn this. Kasi nga po, si purpose, most teachers from DepEd would define this as an equivalent of the motivation part from the traditional format na lesson plan. So, if it is a motivation, it can be presented through games, but the point here is, the more important point here is not just to give fun to your students or to activate their minds. It's also to give them a sense of purpose of what they are learning that topic. And then, next po sa purpose ay ang presentation ng new topic. So, this depends on the discretion of the teacher, how creative he or she is. Depende rin dun sa learners. Kung paano ba natin dapat i-present yung isang lesson. Presentation, you are introducing right here na yung topic nyo for that day. And then D and E, para ito, discussion. Part 1 and Part 2. Meron ditong dalawang dinidiscuss, concepts, and yung skills. So, if yung topic mo ay focused on concepts, it's okay. Focus on concepts. If it's focused on skills, discuss about those skills. I-demonstrate mo sa mga bata. But in cases that they are both present, you need to present both of it. Discuss both of that. And next to your discussion comes the developmental tasks for developing mastery. developing and mastery. So for this part, it's like the formative assessment. Parang yung application, well, not formation, formative assessment. Like you're giving them an opportunity to practice what they have learned in here. And next po sa developing mastery is yung practical application. Para lang din siyang application dun sa old format na lesson plan. Practical application. So what's the difference between the two? So sa developing mastery, you are trying to reinforce what they have learned. And dito naman sa practical application, you are connecting it with real life. There's contextualization. So as you can observe here, balikan natin sa objectives. Hindi siya kagaya ng nasa traditional lesson plan na meron tayong cognitive, affective, and psychomotor objectives. So as you can see, content standards, performance standards, and learning competencies. The question right here, asaan po yung affective domain? Does it mean that there will be no longer wala na tayong values integration in our lessons? Of course not. As teachers, we all know that we still have to develop the values of our students. And it can be inserted right here sa practical application. For example, adjectives. What is the function of adjectives? Of course, we use it to describe things or to give attributions. But what if your students use adjectives as insults for other people? Like discriminating other people. For example, ako sinabihan ko si Ruth na apakaitim mo naman, Ruth. So, as a teacher, yes, you know that they are being able to apply that in real life. But the question is, are they giving justice on how they are using those adjectives? So, ay, okay lang yan. Ayan. Sige, balik tayo. Nagutom ng konti si Wangkat. Joke lang. Okay, so, practical application, we need still to guide our students. Of course, adjectives can be used to give constructive criticisms or to give encouragements to other people. Like simply saying, you look good today, Magdalena. Yung mga ganun bagay. So, that's it. And then, after the practical application, nagkakaroon na generalization and abstractions. And after this, meron tayong evaluation ng learning, evaluating learning. So, dito papasok si summative assessment. Doon sa traditional format ng lesson plan, hiwa-hiwalay ng parts, sila discussion, yung developmental task, discussion proper, nakahiwalay din si application, nakahiwalay din po si evaluation. But, yes, logically speaking, dapat naman talaga magkakasama sila lahat sa procedure. Kasi they are all part ng delivery and execution natin ng topics. So, ayan, ganyan na po yung format niya. And lastly, letter J, dito yung additional tasks. So, as you can see, wala pong assignment. So, pwede mo siyang ilagay dito. Assignment is, according din sa batas, it's only optional. It's not required na meron tayo sa lesson ng assignment. Always remember that. And next po sa ating procedure, IC, part 4, remarks. This one is new para sa atin since, especially for those of us who are accustomed with the traditional format ng isang lesson plan. What is this for? Si remarks. So it is used for specific cases, like sa specific case lang na hindi natapos yung lesson mo. For example, merong activities sa school. So hindi natapos yung lesson. Ilalagay mo dito, indicate mo, the lesson was not finished because nagkaroon ng activity. Pwede rin it's because of a calamity or nag-cancel ng klase. But we cannot compromise our lesson or our teaching hours because we have to train other students. For example, ako, advisor ako ng dance troupe. And I'm trying to help my dancers to mag-practice. I cannot compromise my teaching hours for that. It's not a valid reason, okay? So those extracurricular extracurricular activities must be done after your teaching hours. And ayun lang, sa remarks, these are for cases na hindi natapos yung lesson. And the last part is the reflection. Again, a reminder, these things na sinasabi ko sa inyo are not word by word. These are conceptual. I'm discussing this conceptually. And I will be providing them. Diyan na lang sa mga screen nyo after this discussion. The format talaga. Like, the word for word format ng DLP. So lastly, discuss natin sa reflection. So from the word itself, you are providing your opinion on how successful your lesson has been. Not just opinion, your measurement doon sa mga naging estudyante mo. Since this is after evaluation na, ilalagay mo dito, number one question, how many students has gotten a grade which is equivalent to 80% or above? Then sa evaluation, sino nakakuha ng 80% pataas? Yun yung first question na i-answer mo. Second question, how many students still needs remediation? Okay? Dito rin sa additional tasks, pwede siyang insert na ng remediation. Ayan, naalala ko lang. So, yun yung second question, how much of my students still needs remedial classes? Next to that, letter C question, ilan na yung naka-catch up? After ito, for cases na nakapag-remedial instruction ka na, ilang students na yung able na maka-catch up din sa lesson? And the fourth question, again, for cases that you have conducted remedial classes, ilang students pa yung nangangailangan pa rin ng extra help sa lesson ko? Okay? So those are the questions relevant to the performance of your students. Doon naman tayo sa performance ni teacher. Next question, letter E question, is this. Which of my strategies worked and why did they work? Why were they effective? So for example, gumamit ka ng activity na debate. Nakita mo naging effective siya sa communicational skills ng mga students mo. So bakit siya naging effective? If not, bakit din hindi? Next question is letter F. Ano yung mga difficulties that I encountered which my principal and my supervisor can help me with? So ito yung chine-check ng mga supervisors and principals. Ano yung mga difficulties? Pwede sa facilities, sa inavailability ng mga resources mo. So things that your principal or your supervisor can help you with. And next po, last question that you should ask is, ano yung mga innovations or localized materials na, na-develop ko na gusto kong i-share sa iba? So, di ba, as teachers, we should always be innovative. Actually, dito sa teacher's guide and learner's material, you can get your tasks galing dito. Pwede dyan mo kuhanin si motivation, si presentation, discussion, lahat ng mga activities na to. It can be present here. But what if it is not provided? Of course, as a teacher, you should be able to innovate or to construct your own tasks para sa mga bagay na to. You're lucky if it's provided and if it is appropriate sa mga students na meron ka. Okay? But otherwise, you should be able to construct your own activities, your own tasks. As a teacher naman talaga, yun yung dapat natin gawin. And now, to conclude this topic, as you can see, there are lots of changes na makikita natin sa detailed lesson plan na ginagamit kayo ng DepEd. And you can see that ang ganda ng naging improvement. So one thing that I want everyone to remember here is that you should always be adaptive. Okay? Things will change. Like for example, ngayon, ang ginagamit na ay weekly home learning plan. Not DLP, not DLF. For now, for the case of being under a pandemic situation, meron tayong ginagamit ang weekly home learning plan. So we should always be adaptive. Like what Charles Darwin said, those who were successful are not the smartest ones or not the strongest ones, but the ones who can adapt. Imagine if we stop the school year because nagkaroon ng pandemic. How much time have we lost, diba? So, we need to be able to adjust because we are living in a dynamic world. It will always change. And as a teacher, you should be adaptive because when these formats change again, dapat kaya mo mag-adjust. So if you have questions, huwag kayong mahiya, mag-comment lang kayo dyan. And I'll be providing links. These things are downloadable online. Okay? So I'll be providing links doon sa, sa description box. Okay? And if you have questions, huwag kayong mahiya. So that is the end of the topic. Thank you.